There comes a moment in every believer's life when you suddenly realize that the season you thought would destroy you was actually preparing you. You look back at the nights you cried. You remember the prayers you whispered when nobody knew what you were going through. You remember the doors that closed, the friendships that disappeared, the opportunities you lost, the people who walked away without explanation, the disappointments you could not understand, the days when you asked God how much longer. And somehow, after everything you survived, you are still here, still breathing, still believing, still hoping, still standing. That alone should tell you something. You did not survive all of that for nothing. There are seasons God allows you to walk through that you would never voluntarily choose for yourself. Seasons of waiting, seasons of isolation, seasons where nothing seems to move no matter how hard you pray, seasons where you work but see little fruit, seasons where you give your best and still experience rejection. But sometimes God is doing His deepest work in the seasons that look the least productive. Joseph had a pit before he had a palace. David had a wilderness before he had a throne. Moses had a desert before he had a mission. Jesus himself entered the wilderness before beginning his public ministry. The wilderness was never the destination, it was preparation. And perhaps you are beginning to notice that something has changed. You cannot explain it completely. You simply feel different. The things that used to control you no longer have the same power. The people you once desperately needed approval from no longer determine your worth. The rejection that once broke you has become something you can survive. The delay that once frustrated you has taught you patience. The loneliness that once frightened you has taught you how to hear your own thoughts and, more importantly, how to seek God without distraction. And maybe this is one of the first signs that your season is changing. You are no longer the person who entered the storm. You have been transformed by it. And today I want you to hear this message carefully, because sometimes God changes your season before He changes your circumstances. You may still be looking at the same bank account, the same house, the same job, the same unanswered questions, the same responsibilities, but something inside you has changed. And that internal transformation can be the beginning of a completely different chapter. So if you have been wondering whether the season of suffering is finally coming to an end, stay with me, because there are signs, not magical signs, not superstitions, but spiritual and practical signs that reveal that God has been preparing you for something new. And the first sign is this. 1. You no longer react the way you used to. One of the clearest signs that God has developed you is that situations that once controlled your emotions no longer control you. There was a time when one person's words could ruin your entire day. Someone could criticize you, and you would spend hours thinking about it. Someone could ignore you, and you would wonder what you did wrong. Someone could reject you, and you would question your value. But now, you may still feel the pain. You may still notice the rejection. You may still experience disappointment, but you don't collapse the way you used to. You have learned how to pause. You have learned how to pray before reacting. You have learned that not every battle deserves your energy. That is growth, and sometimes promotion begins internally long before it becomes visible externally. God does not merely want to give you a better position. He wants to prepare you to carry it, because if your character cannot sustain your blessing, the blessing itself can become a burden. That is why some seasons feel longer than they should. God is not necessarily withholding something from you. Sometimes He is preparing you for something you are not yet ready to handle. 2. You have stopped chasing what God is asking you to release. There comes a point when you become tired of forcing things. You stop chasing people who have made it clear they don't want to walk with you. You stop begging for opportunities that continually reject you. You stop trying to convince people to recognize your value. You stop explaining yourself to people who have already decided what they believe about you. And strangely enough, you become peaceful. You begin saying, if God wants this for me, He will make a way. That doesn't mean you become lazy. It doesn't mean you stop working. It means you stop worshiping outcomes. You do your part, you pray, you prepare, you show up, you remain faithful, but you stop trying to play God. You realize that what is truly meant for your life does not require you to destroy your dignity to obtain it. Sometimes God removes your desperation before He releases your next opportunity, and that is a powerful transformation, because desperation makes you accept things that peace would never allow you to accept. 3. The people who were not meant for your next season begin to fall away. This one can hurt. Sometimes the first sign of a new season looks like loss. A friendship ends. A relationship changes. Someone stops calling. Someone who used to be close suddenly becomes distant. And you wonder, God, why are you allowing me to lose people? But not every departure is punishment. Some departures are protection. There are people who were assigned to a chapter of your life, but were never meant to be permanent characters in your story. And learning to accept that is part of maturity. Don't spend your entire life standing at a closed door because you are emotionally attached to the person who closed it. Sometimes God closes a door because He knows that if it remained open, you would keep walking backward. You are trying to understand why someone left. God may be trying to show you where He wants you to go next. Let them go, bless them, forgive them, learn from the experience, and keep walking. Because sometimes the people you lose are making room for the people you are going to meet. 4. You have developed a stronger desire for God than for the blessings of God. This is one of the deepest signs of spiritual maturity. There was probably a time when most of your prayers were, God, give me this. God, fix this. God, change this situation. God, open this door. God, give me money. God, give me success. And there is nothing wrong with bringing your needs before God. But eventually something changes. You begin praying, God, even if you don't give me what I want, don't let me lose you. That prayer represents maturity because you are no longer worshiping the gift. You are seeking the giver. You begin realizing that peace is more valuable than possessions. Wisdom is more valuable than popularity. Character is more valuable than recognition. And God's presence is more valuable than temporary success. Jesus asked in Mark 8:36, "For what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul?" That question becomes more meaningful as you grow, because success without God can become another form of emptiness. 5. You are finally at peace with your past. Your past happened. You cannot rewrite it. You cannot change what they did. You cannot erase the mistakes you made. You cannot go back and give your younger self the wisdom you have today. But you can stop allowing yesterday to control tomorrow. Maybe you have finally forgiven yourself. Maybe you have finally stopped asking why you were treated the way you were treated. Maybe you have accepted that some things will never receive the explanation you wanted. And somehow you are okay. That is freedom. Forgiveness does not mean what happened was acceptable. Forgiveness means you refuse to let what happened become the permanent ruler of your future. You can remember without returning. You can learn without living there. You can acknowledge the pain without allowing it to define you. And when God brings you to that place, something beautiful happens. You stop introducing yourself through your wounds. You begin introducing yourself through your purpose. 6. You have learned to be alone without feeling abandoned. There is a difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness says, "Nobody wants me." Solitude says, "I can be alone and still be okay." There may have been a season when being alone terrified you. You needed constant communication, constant attention, constant reassurance. But now you can sit quietly. You can pray. You can think. You can read scripture. You can plan. You can work on yourself. You can enjoy your own company. And you realize something. Being alone is not necessarily being abandoned. Sometimes God uses solitude to remove the noise so you can finally hear what you were too distracted to notice. Elijah heard the voice of God not in the wind, earthquake, or fire, but in a gentle whisper. Sometimes the next instruction is not hidden. It is simply being drowned out by noise. 7. Your discernment has become stronger. You don't believe everything anymore. You don't trust everyone immediately. You don't confuse charisma with character. You don't confuse attention with love. You don't confuse opportunity with assignment. You have learned to observe. You have learned to wait. You have learned to ask, where is this leading me? Does this align with God's word? Does this produce peace or constant confusion? Is this relationship helping me become better or slowly destroying me? That is discernment, and discernment is one of the greatest gifts a person can develop, because not every open door is a God door. Some doors are open because someone wants to use you. Some opportunities look attractive, but lead you away from your values. Some relationships feel exciting, but produce chaos. You're learning to look beyond appearances. That is growth. 8. You have become more disciplined. This is where spiritual promotion becomes practical. You start waking up and doing what needs to be done even when you don't feel motivated. You stop waiting for inspiration. You become consistent. You pray when you feel like praying and when you don't. You work when you're excited and when you're tired. You save when you want to spend. You study when entertainment is easier. You keep your promises to yourself. You become dependable, and suddenly you realize my life is changing because I am changing. God can open a door, but you still have to walk through it. God can provide an opportunity, but you still have to prepare. God can give you an assignment, but you still have to develop the discipline to fulfill it. Faith is not an excuse for passivity. Faith gives you the courage to act. 9. What used to break you now builds you. This is powerful. The same type of rejection that once destroyed your confidence may now motivate you to improve. The same failure that once made you quit may now teach you persistence. The same criticism that once wounded your ego may now help you become more humble. You realize, this happened to me, but it doesn't have to destroy me. You begin turning pain into wisdom. You begin turning mistakes into lessons. You begin turning disappointment into direction. Romans 8:28 reminds believers that God can work all things together for good for those who love Him and are called according to His purpose. Notice it doesn't say all things are good. Some things are painful. Some things are unfair. Some things should never have happened, but God can still bring meaning from them. That is the difference. Your pain does not have to be wasted. 10. You stop needing everyone to understand you. This is freedom. You realize that people will misunderstand you. They will misinterpret your decisions. They will question your choices. They may talk about you. They may create stories about you. And eventually you learn, I don't have to attend every argument I'm invited to. You don't have to defend yourself against every rumor. You don't have to prove every accusation wrong. Sometimes your life will eventually speak louder than your explanation. Jesus himself was misunderstood. Joseph was misunderstood. David was misunderstood. Many people who eventually fulfilled great purposes had seasons where others could not see what God was doing in them. So don't allow temporary misunderstanding to make you abandon permanent purpose. 11. You have started seeing delays differently. A delayed answer used to feel like a rejected prayer. Now you understand that not yet is not always no. There are things you prayed for years ago that if God had given them to you immediately might have destroyed you. You wanted the relationship before you developed emotional maturity. You wanted the money before you learned stewardship. You wanted influence before you learned humility. You wanted leadership before you learned how to serve. You wanted the platform before you developed the message. Sometimes God delays the blessing because He is developing the person who will receive it. And when the blessing finally comes, you realize why you had to wait. 12. Your heart is becoming softer. Not harder. Suffering can make people bitter. But when God heals you properly, suffering can make you compassionate. You begin understanding people differently. You become slower to judge. You recognize that everyone is fighting battles you cannot see. You become more patient, more merciful, more willing to forgive. You don't want other people to experience the pain you experienced, and that is evidence that your suffering did not win. It hurt you, but it did not turn you into the person who hurt you. That is victory. 13. You have a new hunger for purpose. You start asking different questions, not, how can I impress people? But, what am I supposed to do with my life? Not, how can I become famous? But, how can my life be useful? Not, how can I prove them wrong? But, how can I honor God? Your priorities begin changing. And when your priorities change, your decisions change. When your decisions change, your habits change. When your habits change, your future changes. That is how transformation works. It rarely happens in one dramatic moment. It happens through hundreds of small decisions. 14. You have stopped comparing your timeline to everyone else's. You see someone younger succeeding, someone buying a house, someone getting married, someone building a business, someone traveling, someone becoming successful. And instead of asking, why not me? You begin saying, God, help me become who you created me to become. That is maturity. Because comparison makes you blind to your own progress. You cannot celebrate someone else's harvest while constantly insulting your own planting season. Your journey is your journey. David didn't become king at the same time Joseph entered the palace. Moses did not receive his assignment at the same age as Samuel. God does not operate according to your timeline. Trust his timing. 15. You have developed a quiet confidence. You no longer need to announce everything. You don't need everyone to know your plans. You don't need applause for every achievement. You can work quietly, pray quietly, build quietly, grow quietly. And when something finally manifests, people may say, "When did this happen?" They didn't see the years of preparation. They didn't see the nights you stayed awake. They didn't see the sacrifices. They didn't see the prayers. They didn't see the discipline. They only saw the result. But God saw everything. And perhaps that is why your next season will look sudden to other people, but it won't be sudden to you. You will know how long you waited. You will know how much you sacrificed. You will know how many times you almost quit. 16. You are no longer terrified of starting again. One of the greatest signs that you have healed is that failure no longer scares you the same way. You realize, if this doesn't work, I can try again. If this door closes, I can build another door. If I lose this opportunity, I can learn. If someone leaves, I can continue. That mindset is powerful because fear loses control when you stop believing that one failure can destroy your entire future. You understand that your life is bigger than one chapter. A bad chapter is not a bad book. A painful season is not a failed life. You are still becoming 17. You feel God calling you into greater responsibility. Sometimes promotion doesn't feel like luxury. Sometimes it feels like responsibility. You become more aware of the people around you. You begin thinking about your family, your community, your work, your influence, your gifts, your purpose. You realize that what God gives you is not merely for you. Your testimony may encourage someone, your wisdom may help someone, your resources may bless someone, your experience may prevent someone else from making the same mistake. Your survival may become somebody else's evidence that they can survive too. That is why your story matters. 18. You have learned to trust God without having all the answers. This may be the greatest sign of all. You don't know exactly how everything will work out. You don't know when. You don't know through whom. You don't know what the next chapter looks like. But you say, "God, I trust you." That is faith. Faith is not knowing everything. Faith is trusting someone who knows everything. Proverbs 3:6 tells us to trust in the Lord with all our heart and not lean entirely on our own understanding, but to acknowledge Him in our ways. Sometimes your understanding will fail you. Sometimes circumstances will confuse you. Sometimes the evidence will look opposite to what you prayed for, but God is not limited by what you can currently see. 19. You have started receiving small confirmations. Sometimes the next season doesn't arrive with fireworks. It begins with small things. A conversation, an unexpected opportunity, a new idea, a person appearing at the right moment, a door opening after months of nothing happening, a burden lifting, a renewed desire to create, a sudden clarity about something that previously confused you. Don't despise small beginnings. Zechariah 4:10 reminds us not to despise the day of small things. A seed doesn't look like a tree, but the tree is inside the seed. Your next chapter may already be present in something that currently looks insignificant. Pay attention. 20. You can finally say, "God, whatever you want." This is where surrender becomes complete. You stop negotiating with God. You stop saying, "God, I'll follow you if you give me this." You begin saying, "God, lead me wherever you want." That is a dangerous prayer in the best possible way, because surrender puts your life into the hands of the one who sees what you cannot see. And perhaps your season of suffering is ending not because everything around you has changed yet, but because the suffering has accomplished what it came to accomplish. It taught you patience. It taught you discernment. It taught you humility. It taught you dependence on God. It taught you resilience. It taught you compassion. It taught you that your identity cannot be built on circumstances. And now you are ready to move forward. So hear me clearly. Your promotion may not look like a luxury car. It may not look like millions of dollars. It may not look like fame. Your promotion may be peace. Your promotion may be wisdom. Your promotion may be emotional maturity. Your promotion may be freedom from an addiction to people's approval. Your promotion may be finally understanding your purpose. Your promotion may be becoming the person you prayed to become. And sometimes the greatest blessing is not God changing your circumstances. It is God changing you so deeply that the circumstances no longer have the authority they once had over you. You have survived things you thought would finish you. You have walked through valleys you thought would never end. You have cried tears nobody saw. You have prayed prayers nobody heard. You have carried burdens you rarely talked about. But look at you now. You are still here. And maybe you don't feel strong. Maybe you still have questions. Maybe some things haven't changed yet. That's okay. You don't have to pretend that everything is perfect. Faith does not mean denying reality. Faith means believing that reality is not the final word. Psalm 35 says that weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Your morning may not arrive according to your schedule, but don't confuse the darkness of the night with the absence of God. God can be present in the night. God can be present in the waiting. God can be present in the silence. God can be present in the uncertainty. And one day you may look back and realize He was there the whole time. So congratulations, not because life will suddenly become perfect, not because you will never face another problem, not because every prayer will immediately receive the answer you want, but congratulations because you have grown. Congratulations because you didn't quit. Congratulations because you learned. Congratulations because your faith survived. Congratulations because your heart survived. Congratulations because the person who entered that season is not the same person standing here today. You are wiser, you are stronger, you are more discerning, you are more patient, you are more grounded, you are more dependent on God, and perhaps that is the promotion. Maybe God is preparing you for a level of responsibility that requires a different version of you. So don't go back. Don't return to the habits God helped you escape. Don't reopen doors He helped you close. Don't chase people He removed. Don't allow temporary loneliness to make you return to permanent dysfunction. Don't exchange your peace for familiar chaos. You have come too far. There is still more ahead. There are still prayers to pray. There are still lessons to learn. There are still people to help. There are still dreams to pursue. There are still chapters to write. And above everything else, there is still a God who has been faithful through every chapter you have already survived. If you are entering a new season, enter it with humility. Don't become arrogant because you have suffered. Don't look down on people who are still where you once were. Remember what it felt like to need grace. Remember what it felt like to cry. Remember what it felt like to wait. And when God finally elevates you, reach backward and help somebody else climb. Because real promotion is not merely going higher, it is becoming capable of lifting others. So today, I want you to release the old season. Release the shame, release the bitterness, release the fear. Release the constant need to understand why everything happened. Some questions may never receive answers, but your life can still receive purpose. You don't need to understand every chapter to keep reading the book. You don't need to know every detail of the road to take the next step. You don't need to see the entire staircase to climb the next step. Just keep walking, keep praying, keep trusting, keep preparing, keep believing, and when the door finally opens, don't be surprised, you have been preparing for it. When the opportunity arrives, don't be afraid, you have been developing for it. When the blessing comes, don't worship the blessing. Thank the one who gave it. And when your story finally makes sense, remember the season when nothing made sense. Remember the nights. Remember the tears. Remember the waiting. Remember how close you came to giving up. And then say, God, now I understand. You were not destroying me. You were developing me. You were not abandoning me. You were preparing me. You were not wasting my time. You were building my character. You were not ignoring my prayers. You were teaching me how to trust you. And if that is where you are today, then take a deep breath. You made it. The old version of you does not have to lead the new chapter. The pain does not have to define you. The rejection does not have to name you. The failure does not have to become your identity. The delay does not have to become your destiny. Your past is part of your story. It is not the entirety of your story. There is still more. There is still purpose. There is still hope. There is still work to do. there is still grace available, and there is still a God who has not finished with you. So congratulations, your season may be changing. Your heart has changed, your perspective has changed, your faith has changed. And perhaps what you once called a wilderness was actually preparation for the next assignment. Walk into that next season carefully. Walk into it prayerfully, walk into it humbly, walk into it boldly. And don't forget who carried you through the previous one. Because the same God who kept you in the valley is the God who can guide you on the mountain. The same God who sustained you when you had almost nothing is the God who can teach you how to steward much. The same God who heard your midnight prayers is the God you should thank when morning finally comes. So lift your head, dry your tears, stand up again. Not because life will never hurt again, but because you now know that pain cannot have the final word. Your story is not over, your purpose is not over, your journey is not over. And if God has brought you this far, trust Him with what comes next. Congratulations, you survived the season, you learned from the season, you grew through the season, and now, whatever the next chapter looks like, walk into it with God, because the greatest promotion is not simply going from one place to another. The greatest promotion is becoming the person God can trust with the next assignment. And perhaps that person is already emerging in you, so go forward. Go forward with faith. Go forward with wisdom. Go forward with courage. Go forward without bitterness. Go forward without fear. Go forward without needing everyone to understand. Go forward knowing that your value was never determined by who rejected you. And when you finally arrive at the place you prayed for, don't forget to look back and whisper, "Thank you, God, for every closed door, for every delay, for every lesson, for every tear, for every lonely night, for every unanswered question, for every moment I thought you had forgotten me. Thank you for keeping me. Thank you for strengthening me. Thank you for changing me. Thank you for bringing me through. And thank you for whatever comes next."